One of history's most sinister and overlooked abandoned communities stands in northern Germany, on the Baltic island of Rügen. Hidden behind the pine trees lining the coast is a giant building, a forgotten relic of Hitler's Nazi regime. One of the longest buildings ever constructed in Europe, its massive bulk dominates the peaceful scenery. Its name is Prora, and it was built to be a holiday camp for thousands of Germans. But how did this colossal structure come to be here? And what was its real, sinister purpose?
The Prora holiday camp is nothing but a modern-day mind control center. This is where German workers would go for an alleged holiday. But guess what? You're being woken up with a loudspeaker and told what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. You're gonna have your meals together. And in your so-called leisure time, you're gonna watch the same propaganda films and read the same propaganda literature.
The amount of time and money that went into creating the Prora complex, you realize what an actually vitally important project it was for the Nazis. This was really the long-term game, which was to create a master race that thought like the Nazis thought.
Katja Luca is a local historian who's an expert on the site. She's discovered that although Prora was said to be just a holiday complex for industrial workers, its true role in Hitler's Germany was far darker.
Man sollte hier manipuliert und beeinflusst werden entsprechend der Nazi-Ideologie. Die Idee hatten, dann ein Seebad zu errichten, was dazu beitragen sollte, deutschen Arbeitern, die nicht so viel Geld haben, auch Ferien zu haben und auch am Meer Ferien machen zu können. Der Hintergedanke dabei war, dass man möglichst schnell sich erholen sollte, in möglichst kurzer Zeit, in hochkonzentrierter Form, um fit für den Krieg zu sein, um bessere Arbeitsleistung durchführen zu können und eigentlich auch, um fit für Massenmord gemacht zu werden.
But how could an ordinary holiday camp play a part in Hitler's plans for world domination and genocide? The whole Prora concept started with an organization called Kraft durch Freude, or Strength Through Joy. Led by top Nazi Robert Ley, on the surface, Strength Through Joy just provided subsidized holidays for millions of low-paid German industrial workers. But its real mission was to unite them behind Hitler.
I think the Strength Through Joy organization had a very serious intention behind it, and that was to bind people to the Nazi regime. And probably even more than that, there was an attempt to brainwash people and prepare them for the possibility of war.
With Prora, Ley planned to go even further than the organized activities and sea cruises Strength Through Joy had provided up to now. The giant complex would offer everything workers needed to enjoy their break from turning out weapons for the Third Reich. Swimming pools, a cinema, bowling alleys, cafes and cabarets. But their activities would be rigidly controlled to a background of relentless propaganda.
The concept was way ahead of its time in terms of what they were intending to produce. Yes, it was quite Spartan, but at the same time, you had this amazing complex that, of course, had an element of control planned or built into it. But for the average German worker, this would have seemed like nirvana. They would have come from industrial cities. They probably had never seen the sea before. So you can understand its attraction.
You have to imagine the whole intent was to make the holidaymakers step off that boat and say, wow, this is fantastic. There must have been a great deal of nationalism.
Die in Stein gehauene Ideologie der Nationalsozialisten. Wir sehen hier die steinerne Vorstellung von Volksgemeinschaft, wie die Nationalsozialisten sie sich gedacht haben. Ähnlich wie auf den KdF-Schiffen hätte man eigentlich von morgens bis abends Programm gehabt. Mit einem Morgenappell und dann bis hin zum Schwimmen im Meer und Abendessen und Abschlussveranstaltung wäre alles durchorganisiert gewesen.
The 2.8-mile-long building was divided into 8 six-story accommodation blocks, all constructed from reinforced concrete, a huge innovation at the time.
It would have been something that you'd never have seen before. And so with that comes that impression of, wow, this is cutting-edge technology. This is advancement. We're at the forefront here. So it might sound quite dull to us today, reinforced concrete. Back then, it was really exciting.
Each block was to contain dozens of rooms overlooking the sea, all designed to be deliberately basic. Prora wasn't about luxury, it was about power. Its huge entrance halls were designed to have the same impact as the vast Nuremberg Rally Arena.
Dieser Raum gehört einfach mit zum Das ist so hoch und so mächtig, um natürlich den Arbeiter, der hier hätte herkommen sollen, zu beeindrucken, einzuschüchtern. Auf diese Weise hat man Einfluss genommen. Man war eingeschüchtert und man war aber zugleich auch erhoben, weil man Bestandteil dieser großen Idee war. So hat Manipulation funktioniert.
I don't think you could see a structure back then in the 1930s like what there is at Prora and not be impressed by it, not feel as though, wow, this is something special and it's ours.
The key part of the Prora complex was going to be a monumental auditorium, capable of holding all 20,000 tourists at the same time.
It's austere. It is everything that is grand about the so-called Aryan race, and it was designed to emit feelings of national pride, and you have to believe it had that very effect.
Creating giant auditoriums is something we've been doing for a really long time. So the Romans did it particularly well, where they had tens of thousands of people all in quite a small area.
I think maybe you would be almost hypnotized by the sight that you've got in front of you. And maybe, yeah, the psychological effect of that worked to Hitler's hand.
So nicht funktioniert, wie man sich ihn gedacht hatte, als man ihn errichtet hat. Aber man sieht, wofür er gedacht war. Man kann damit viel erklären. Man kann die Ideologie damit erklären.
At the end of the war, Prora was taken over by the invading Russian forces, who turned it into a military prison for those who opposed the communist regime. When the Berlin Wall fell in the 1990s, Prora was abandoned, until recently, when renovation was started on the site to create high-end sea view apartments.
Many believe the whole complex should have been leveled. Let's forget about this mind control program. It's a part of our dark past. Let's keep it there. But the fact that it's now being renovated into luxury homes is in a way symbolic of the fact that capitalism has won. Ironically, this is a celebration of what we see in those happy couple posters, but for a whole different reason.